You thought we were done talking about AI. We're not done.
No, we're not going to be. Nope.
No. You know why we're not done talking about AI? Because everybody else is talking about AI still.
Like we talked about Deepin and how they were adding AI into their operating system, the little things.
Yeah, that those other Linuxes way out there that nobody uses.
Little bit.
In our circles, at least. I don't know anybody personally that uses it.
I don't either.
But now it hits a little closer to home.
A little closer. So Fedora has been talking about, incorporating AI into their operating system.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and that's incredibly popular. Well, I mean, I say incredibly. It's one of the most popular. It's not maybe the top one as far as Linux goes, but it's pretty up there.
We don't have numbers, but I think that's Ubuntu, right? Ubuntu's the winner.
Yeah, maybe Ubuntu, at least Debian derivatives, probably when you add all those up. I mean, there's a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I don't have any hard numbers, but I mean, it definitely is one of the most popular. So there was a blog post by Matthew Miller on the topic of AI in Fedora.
It seems like to me, every time it comes up in the Linux circles, there's a big distaste for AI. And I think it doesn't take a whole lot of time to find out that that's the case, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You bring up, using something like Ollama or something locally to generate, a little ChatGPT style conversation with a local model. And, it's not great, but it's still a conversation with the computer, which is kind of cool. But you bring that up and immediately the pitchforks come out.
Yeah, they do. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I know quite a lot of our listeners are also on that side of the fence for AI. But what was it? 2 episodes ago, we talk about AI and how I think there's not only a need, I think there's a whole lot of good to be gained from using AI models in respectful kinds of ways, right? Like, I'm not talking about having Microsoft Copilot built into GNOME. That's not, that has never been anything that I've suggested. Matter of fact, that would kind of suck because it would just eat up CPU time and give you
it'd be chewing on everything that you've put in there all the time, and it wouldn't be productive probably.
Right. You would end up with a dead battery, and you would only be halfway through your work. Yeah. So not great, but that's not really what I'm talking about, and that's not really what Matthew Miller's talking about either.
That wasn't the takeaway I had, and I think we're on the same page, at least as far as the takeaways here. So yeah, we can talk about that. Let's go over some of the quotes here.
Yeah, hold on. But before we get into that,
and we can talk about how we feel about it at the end of that.
Put your pitchforks away. Hold on.
Please.
Hear us out. Hear Matthew Miller out, because I think there's a place for AI. So hold on to your hats. Hold on to your fedoras.
Yep, put your fedora on. Yep, keep it on.
Let's see where this takes us.
So advances in accelerated hardware and machine learning software have unlocked possibilities which were imagined last century, but which were not practical at the time. When the dust settles around the hyperbole, I believe we'll still be left with something significant and powerful.
And I think that's a big takeaway, right? There's a lot of hyperbole, there's a lot of hype about AI and what it can do.
There's a lot it can't do too. And so let's not venture into the stuff that it can't do. Let's stick to the things it can do right now. And I'm good with that.
Yeah, it's still pretty bad at replacing humans in general. So, right. But what's Matthew Miller's take on what it can do?
Translation, file search, home automation, and especially for accessibility. Already a key part of our strategy. For example, open source speech synthesis has long lagged behind proprietary solutions. Now, what we have in Fedora is not even close to the realism, nuance, and flexibility of AI-generated speech.
I just saw a video the other day about how not to get too outside of the Linux realm, but Drake just dropped a what do you call it, a diss track,
Okay.
and he used the voice likeness of both Tupac, who is probably dead, and Snoop Dogg, and it was obviously Drake rapping in the background, and then he layers over these AI generated voices from previous recordings of both of those artists on top of that to make it sound like it is Tupac and Snoop Dogg rapping, right? These are the kinds of things that are already happening. They're already there. I mean, we've been talking about them for years when we're talking about things like deepfakes and, you know, that other kind of stuff. That generative AI that can do that kind of. It's really good at that kind of stuff. You cannot deny that it is good at that kind of thing. Now, that is not a fully ChatGPT wrote the lyrics, ChatGPT brought in the vocals, ChatGPT did the mastering, ChatGPT, you know, cut the track and made the It didn't do all of that.
Right.
But that's not the kind of thing that I think anybody is really trying to inject into their software. They're injecting a lot of the, before you had to manually drag and drop and do and click and do all this well, now we just automate that for you now. So AI is just automation, but we keep using the word AI, and I think it distracts from what utility is really out there. So anyway, so yeah, these are really good things. A file search, especially. I mean, file search kind of sucks.
It does, and like translation is a big thing. I mean, I know I see a ton of time from folks all over the globe that are inputting, you know, translation things in there into, you know, various bits of open source software and operating system stuff. And that's great. I mean, because it's reasonably accurate if someone is, you know, dialect accurate and all of that. But what about the things they don't get to? And they're not doing? It would be nice to see something there, you know, doing that translation. So I think those things really are a lot of time spent for folks using, you know, your OS. So, yeah, it's a good focus, I think. Anyway, he goes on. Says, right now, most of all of this is proprietary. It's corporate-owned, closed models trained with hidden data, largely running on hardware without open-source drivers. If we ignore this, we're going to be left behind, not just Fedora, but free and open-source software entirely. On the other hand, we can take a leadership position and build a future where AI belongs to all of us.
That is, and I know it's a sin to bring it up, but this is one of the things that Mozilla is focusing on right now.
Yep. Yeah, they're putting a lot of energy into it.
Please understand, they're not asking the Firefox developers who are actively working on Firefox and improving Firefox every single version. They're not telling them, all right, put Firefox away and work on this AI thing. There is a separate team to deal with AI. And they're looking at how to do exactly this. How to bring in open models that are not proprietary, that are available for everyone, where you can have the privacy, you can have the security, you can run all this stuff locally and not be packaged up and sold by a company like Amazon.
Yeah.
They're doing that work. And Matthew Miller, at least, and it seems like maybe a few others at Fedora, are starting to look in this direction. And I think that is a fantastic thing for the reasons that Matthew listed.
And I think Mozilla totally falls into that. They've been a leader, I feel like, in the translation space, because now it is like first-class citizen included. And I've used it, and it's really pretty good.
It is good. It's on the fly. It's local. You don't have to ship off your data to Google.
Yep.
I love that.
It says, do you want to translate this? It looks like it's, French or something. And, well, we know I struggle with that. So, yes, please. Yeah.
Un, deux, trois. Yeah. I think we established that
that's
before
as far as I can go. That's it. That's all I got. So, absolutely, right? I mean, and I think that is a place where Mozilla can actually shine with things, AI as well. And so they get a lot of grief because they're not focusing on the browser. And okay, great, but this is something that's included in the browser, and so why not, try to buff that up? I don't know.
Yeah,
like
they get a lot of flack. They get a lot of flack for not focusing on the browser, except for the fact that they focus on the browser.
Right.
And they have a set schedule, a set cadence. They have a release
That's good
every
too.
time, and there are improvements every time. And in almost every single release, there are Linux-specific improvements. And I get it. Your specific one feature doesn't hit the browser in 126, and that's frustrating.
But it's coming. Yeah.
But there is incremental improvement every single time. Let me drop a bombshell on you. Even if Firefox were faster than Chrome in every single respect, Chromium, ungoogled Chromium, whatever your flavor is, if Firefox was faster, if it had more features, if it had everything that you personally wanted in the browser, they would still not own the browser space. They still would not do it. There's nothing Mozilla can do to make Firefox more popular than Chrome. Absolutely zero things. Change my mind. Just tell me the one thing. What is the silver bullet to make Firefox a overnight success the way that it was? It's not. You can't.
I don't know that it needs to be. Let me add on to that. I don't know that it needs to be.
Well, that's kind of where I'm at.
It just needs to work for us, and that's all I really care about.
There we go. There we go. So I'll hop off my soapbox. We can talk more about AI.
Sure.
Which is a soapbox in and of itself.
It is. So Matthew goes on. We can use AI, machine language, or machine learning as part of making the Fedora Linux OS. New tools could help with package automation and bug triage. They could note anomalies in test results and logs, and maybe even help identify potential security issues. We can also create infrastructure-level features for our users. For example, package update descriptions aren't usually very meaningful. We could automatically generate concise summaries of what's new in each system update, not just for each package, but highlighting what's important in the whole set, including upstream change information as well.
Yeah, that's super important, right? Like he's describing something that doesn't exist. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you get gobbledygook now, right? As far as change log information, what does that mean? I mean, people like me understand it, but I'm definitely in a minority. I know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So generate concise summaries of what's new in each system update. That is super important stuff for
keeping people informed. Yeah.
Exactly. But this is stuff that doesn't actually exist in a lot of cases.
It doesn't.
If it doesn't exist,
if you go looking at it, it does. But yeah, what does that mean? I mean, yeah,
right. The argument I hear a lot of times is that, well, AI is not good enough. Well, that's fine. It doesn't have to be the best. It doesn't have to even be good enough. It has to give you a product that you didn't have before.
Right.
We didn't have a concise summary of what's new in each system update. We had nothing, and AI is going to give us something.
Right.
And it's going to be generally correct.
And it's taking something that is pretty factual and succinct and turning it into a narrative. That's essentially what's happening here. And it can do the small things probably really well because we've limited the scope. So we don't have to give it a whole huge model to learn. We just need to give it a narrower scope, and it can probably handle that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're not asking for it to give us the world. We're asking it to take
take those change logs and turn that into, a couple of paragraphs.
right something that a package manager, someone, like a person that manages
Mhm.
packages, can understand, and then turning that into something that even more people can understand. That
Right.
wouldn't have got done otherwise.
Right. Matthew goes on, says, at the same time, we need to work with the rest of the free and open source world to create labels for AI technology, which aligns with our values. We need policies on what we allow and on what we encourage. We may even need to fight for legal frameworks friendly to community-built software. And so this to me is an important bit, because recently we saw Gentoo take a stance that was totally against AI.
Mhm.
No AI in our operating system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of what, if some of these frameworks were in place, that might change their mind in a way, right? Because I think they're
Maybe.
concerned about some of the legal ramifications potentially of, how do we license this stuff and who owns it and how do we attribute it? Because, to be fair, you definitely want to give, the attribution to the right place. And that's sort of some of the core on free and open source software for a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think what I think a lot of the thing that was the impetus for Gentoo's stance is because of what Matthew is saying here, in that
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that when the Gentoo group looks out onto the landscape of what current AI and machine learning actually is, what do they see? They see models generated by Facebook. They see models
Mm-hmm.
generated by Google. They see models generated by I don't know, who's the other, that OpenAI, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And these are models that basically just went out and scraped the web.
Yeah. The world. Yeah.
Which which much of the stuff that ended up in those models
Right.
was copywritten stuff that should
Right.
not exist in those models.
And that's why they don't want it included. And that's fair. I think that is absolutely spot on.
Exactly. But Matthew's point is that we can do better than that.
Right. We can generate our own.
Exactly. Like we did this back in the early 90s with
This
the
is how it
Linux
started.
kernel.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We did that with desktops. We did that with everything.
Right.
There is a better way.
Right.
And Matthew is sticking his neck out there, and I guarantee you he's going to be the scapegoat for a lot of this. But he's sticking his neck out there and saying that we can do better, and
Mm-hmm.
we should do better. And I think that we should support those folks like Matthew that are going out there and actually saying these things well before they're established in Linux. Give it 2 to
Right.
5 years. This will
Well,
just be a foregone conclusion, and we will have this in Linux, and it'll already be there. But there has to be someone.
And I think you fast forward to the 2 to 5 years, like you say, and Gentoo might take a different stance on it, right? Because
Right.
some of that
Right.
stuff is established, and that's
Right. The
fine.
current landscape is pretty hostile to
Sure.
anybody that wants autonomy when it comes to their
Mhm.
art or anything like that, right?
Right.
But, if Mozilla wins, if Fedora jumps on this train, maybe even with Mozilla,
That would be cool.
we can do better.
Mhm.
We can absolutely do better, and we should do better.
So, to wrap it up, Matthew says, finally, of course, we can provide models in the OS. This includes accessibility tooling, which can benefit everyone. Imagine an all-local voice assistant that doesn't send your conversations to some big data center or try to sell you things while simultaneously selling your personal data. We could also include tools that make it easier to find help, features to simplify your system administration tasks, and interfaces to better organize your documents and media. All within your control, all running on a free and open source software stack.
That's super important. Like this is one of the points that we made when we talked about AI a couple episodes ago, which is I don't want the ones that are currently out there right now
I
because
don't either.
they are privacy invasive. The entire point of them, essentially just vacuum up everything
Yeah.
else on the internet too and add that to the model. And that's
Well,
not really.
Yeah, it's not great. And I'm going to add and say I think some of those things need to be curated before we feed them into the machine, because we don't want it hoovering up bad data or incorrect information, because that's posted out there. I mean, convince me otherwise. The incorrect things are posted and get said, and we don't.
Have you been to Reddit? No, everything said there is true.
Yeah, same with Facebook and YouTube and all of them, right? I mean, every single thing. So I think being able to have it, locally on a machine, with the curated model a little bit, and then have it do its own thing about learning about your local situation, and giving you that voice over, prompt, or feeding you the information about your updates and telling you which things are coming in. That seems like great stuff. It's not being done anywhere else.
I think the entire point here is not to replace what already exists or the human counterpart to it with AI, but to replace nothing with AI-generated something, right? Like, we're not saying take away the voice assistant that you have right now and replace it with AI. We're saying where there is no capability to do what you want, maybe we can put AI there and help you out. Where there are deficiencies in a help document, maybe AI can step in there and fill in the gaps. And I think it's worth working toward. And especially in the case of accessibility, semi-accessible is better than not accessible at all.
Yep. And as long as it's accurate, like I said, with curated information, we could probably get pretty close. And then ultimately, we have that AI stuff as a placeholder. Maybe humans can come along as time permits and clean things up.
Yeah, exactly. I think AI is going to be a good stand-in until we get to it. Well, if you haven't checked us out on YouTube, maybe you're already watching us right here. Faces, yeah, okay. But if you haven't caught us on YouTube, make sure to go over to youtube.com/LinuxUserspace, hit that subscribe button, or if you're already on YouTube, hit it. Just
ding the bell. Ding the bell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, might as well, because if you don't have time to watch the entire show, we go back and we release each of the individual segments as standalone
shorts.
Little bits. Yeah, exactly. And then as shorts as time permits, right? Because I'm not an AI. As time permits, we put out those little shorts. And a lot of those come from the pre-show, which doesn't actually come out in the show.
Right.
So this is pretty exclusive stuff. I know. We're not a huge fan of shorts and TikTok and whatever, but they're like 40 seconds most of the time.
Yeah, it won't kill a lot of time for you. Yeah, you can handle it.
I mean, it makes me giggle, so I put them out there.
We say funny stuff. And
a lot of times when the cameras are... Okay, the camera's on, but when the lights... When the
lights are down?
Yeah, the deflector beams... whatever.
When my hair is down.
Dan takes his hair down sometimes, and that's where the shorts come from. And those get out. And you don't really catch those anywhere else.
Nope.
Unless you pay the $5 or $10 to get the exclusive behind the scenes access. But that's way more than just a short here and there. That's the entire conversation that happened up until we started saying, "Hey, welcome to Linux User Space." So
that's the 1.5 hour episode that really was 4 hours.
No joke, dude. There was like an hour. Again, we did it again because I don't know. Me and Dan just have a good time. We just sit here and talk about the stuff that we're about to talk about, or stuff that happened, or stuff that doesn't even enter into the show at all.
Not even pertinent. Not even a thing.
Interesting, but doesn't make it to the show. So. Right. If that interests you at all, $5 or $10 will get you $5 will get you the audio version if you're a podcast kind of aficionado, or $10 will get you the video version where you get to see these eyebrows do the thing. That's right. But if you don't care about either of those things and you're more of a PeerTube kind of person, well, then you should check out TILvids, because that's where our educational stuff goes. If there's a segment, a little behind on that part, but if there's a segment that is more educational than not, that'll get released on TILvids. But 99% of the time, that just means the history episodes.
Right.
They are locked and loaded over on TILvids. So if you're a PeerTube person and you like history of distros, applications, looking at you, XZ, coming up.
Yeah, that's coming.
That's right. That will be over on TILvids as well. So you can get our stuff all over the place. But subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on TILvids, subscribe on Patreon too if you're feeling extra special.
Got the whole burn in your pocket there.
That's
for your wallet to fall out. That's cool.
$1 will get you that Lemmy account exclusive access. So check that out.
You get Discord access just for patrons.
Patreon.
And you get early episodes, high quality episodes if you go to big bucks.
I forget about that part, right? Usually about...
Well, you produce them.
I know. Seriously. It's all a blur most of the time. But
sure?
Usually about 24 hours or sometimes more.
Ish.
Before the show drops, you'll get that early access to the episodes in high quality, so that music comes in crystal clear.
Yeah.
That's right. So one place, the other place, whatever place, make sure you go subscribe on the place.
And we appreciate your support wherever you go. That's where you're fine. We love
right.
it.